Welcome to the Everlesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. The information provided on and made available through this video and podcast does not constitute as financial product advice. The information is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice. We recommend that you obtain your own independent professional advice before making any decisions in relation to your particular requirements or circumstances.
Welcome to the Everlesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. My name's Jeff and I'm pleased to be your host, and I'm joined today by Financial Adviser Ashleigh. Welcome along, Ash.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to be talking about all things managing money and your cash flow specifically. But before we get into that, we like to throw in a bit of the healthy and happy. So Ash, what keeps you healthy and happy?
Healthy, I am big on prioritizing sleep, so ensuring that I'm getting a consistent 8 hours a night is my, hard and fast rule, because I find it brings balance to everything else. And happy, I enjoy spending time with friends, and I'm an avid reader, so you'll often catch me with my nose in a book.
Very good. And then when you're not doing that, you love helping people with their cash flow and managing their money. So let's get into that topic. So I think budgeting is a word that we're going to talk a little bit about, and often gets a bad rap. But, give us your perspective on budgeting and how do you go about budgeting?
My perspective on budgeting is that it's boring but necessary. Well, some people might say that it's boring. I find it interesting. So budgeting and having a budget and a good understanding of your cash flow is the cornerstone of your financial situation. So without having a good sense of what comes in, what goes out, and how to make your money work for you, people get stuck. So it's basically the fundamental and the start of any good financial plan. Okay,
and how do you suggest you go about it? So, there's those people, like you said, who just love it. It's easy, probably don't need a lot of tips, but those people who it isn't necessarily their favourite thing, or they've, tried it before, how do you suggest people go about starting thinking about budgeting?
The easiest place to start is to look at what you're currently spending. So if you keep a log, or just, keep an eye on what you're spending in both fixed things like bills, regular payments that you have to make, but also those fun things that you like to spend on. So whether or not it's going out for dinner or for holidays, or it's a regular activity that you like to do, having a sense of what those regular things are, mapping it out so you can plan, because ultimately it's finding a balance between what you enjoy spending your time on, and then how it fits with your financial goals. So there's a value for what you're spending money on and working towards in the future.
Yeah, I think we're both pretty aligned in that it's not necessarily about how you can eke out the last cent out of your dollar. It's about being mindful and getting a good understanding of where your money's going and making some good, constructive decisions around that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So if people are starting on that process, how much should they be aiming to save?
It's a very relative answer. So should, at the end of the day, you should be saving or spending less than you're earning. That's the most basic rule as the start. So depending on how much, it depends on, essentially there's a trade-off between what you spend now will impact on what you can do later. And if you save more now, it will, create more opportunities. So a good rule of thumb is to be saving at least, ideally about 30% of your income. Whether or not that is achievable in your budget is what you kind of need to look at and see if it works. Overall, having a realistic target is the most important thing, because if your target is too high and you're trying to save too much and you're, skimping on living and what you value now, you'll be unhappy. Yep. And ultimately money is a tool for you, for your life. So it's balancing, finding that balance between spending and saving now and what your longer term goals are. So it's not just about, scrimping and saving and squirreling away money where you can. It's finding that balance and, working towards
I think it's got to be sustainable as well, hasn't it? It's no point, because if you're scrimping really hard and not enjoying life, then you're not going to be able to sustain it. It's just going to become a punish, and we don't need that.
Exactly. And then if that's the case, usually what happens, and it's pretty much guaranteed for everyone that you look at, if you budget too hard and you scrimp too hard, you'll end up spending it anyway. So you'll funnel away the money for a period of time, and then it becomes too hard, or it doesn't fit the lifestyle you want, and you're not finding value in the savings, so it gets spent anyway. So it's realistic goals are the key to budgeting and saving successfully.
Yep. And so you mentioned 30% as a good rule of thumb. If you've got debt or a mortgage or those types of things, does that include mortgage repayments in that 30%, or how do you look at it? I know we're getting a little bit technical.
Yeah. Well, it depends. So I would say that at the end of the day, when you're repaying your mortgage, you're building your equity in your position. But for a lot of people, if you have a mortgage, you're not going to be selling your home in the future. Like, security is an overarching need, and something that you're not going to be, cashing in for retirement or future wealth creation goals. So having a savings plan outside of debt repayment is important to have, longer term facilities and options in place. That being said, mortgages are often one of the biggest things that are lumpy in your cash flow. So it's the most expensive line item for a lot of Aussies.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what your situation is will change what your savings capacity is.
Yep.
And there's a ways of saving effectively with a mortgage as well. There's specific kind of tools and options that you can look at there, and
Great. So assuming we've got on top of the spending, there's some surplus, so that means we are spending less than what we're earning and got a little bit left over. What should people do with the surplus?
It's a very good question. The first thing is to make sure that you have a bit of a safety net. So you don't want to, it's good to have positive cash flow, but you want a bit of a cash cushion or an emergency buffer there, just so if something happens, you have money to see you through the rainy day or the crisis event, or whatever's happening. What to do next can change. So for example, if you have a mortgage, which a lot of Aussies do, using an offset account for your savings, especially that cash cushion, is a really good way of structuring your cash flow and your savings goals, because what that does, it will essentially save, keep your money in cash, liquid for when you need it, but any balance that you have in the offset account is taking off your mortgage for your interest calculations. So you have a bit of a better saving there, which is attractive because the interest rate on a home loan will be more than what the bank will pay you if you had it in savings.
Yep, absolutely. So that's a good starting point. And then once you get on top of those things, then you can start considering investments and other strategies like that.
Yeah. That's where when some of the fun stuff starts, where you start to look at investing and other ways of really making your money work to meet your goals.
Very good. So that might be a topic for another day.
Yes. Rain check that.
All right. Well, thanks, Ash. That was great. Thanks for sharing your insights and your passion for budgeting. It's infectious. I might even think about reviewing mine now. And at home, thanks very much for tuning in. If you would like some help with budgeting or some strategies, get in touch with Ash or the Everlesco team, and we'd love to help you. And in the meantime, have a healthy, wealthy and happy day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Everlesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. If you would like to learn more about anything you've heard in this episode, please give us a call on 02 9232 6800 or email admin@everlesco.com.au. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more Everlesco podcast episodes and stay up to date by following us on Instagram and Facebook.